The next topic that we are going to discuss are arrays. Arrays are data structures that allow us to put multiple elements together in a way so we can access them all by indices. For example, if you have 10 elements in an array, you can put elements at indices 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on till 9. Arrays are really good for storing data that needs to be accessed linearly or at any particular index as you want. Notice that I said that the array indices start at 0. So just like C, C++, C#, JavaScript also has array indices starting from 0, and the last element in an array is at length -1. Unlike arrays in C, C++, C#, or even Java, arrays in JavaScript can hold any type of data. Arrays in JavaScript can grow dynamically, they know their length, and in general, they provide a ton of flexibility. So let's now see how we can declare and use arrays in a JavaScript program. The way we declare a JavaScript array is by declaring a variable and then assigning it square bracket, as you can see here. What this does is it creates an empty array and assigns it to the variable an array right here. Now on line 9, you can see there is another way of declaring an array. You can say, this variable name another array equals new array. Now this is an interesting way. This is yet another way of declaring an array, but the first one is preferable because it's very easy and clear to understand that you are declaring an array. Square bracket is a very well-known way of declaring arrays in pretty much any language, and also it's a lot more concise. So you will see the option specified on line 8, the way specified on line 8 as the prevalent one. Now of course you will not be creating empty arrays all the time. You will be usually creating arrays and assigning some values inside them. You can create an array and assign some values in initialization itself. So on line 13, if you see, we are creating another array called yet another array, and we are assigning it some values. So the way of assigning is start square bracket and then put the values separated by comma in here. So here we have 3 values: apple, orange, and pear, separated by the commas. The way to access any element in an array is by putting the name of the variable and then the index in square brackets. So here we are printing the array element at index number 1. Since the arrays start at indices 0, index number 1 would be orange, index number 0 is apple, and hence index number 1 is orange. If we run this thing using Node, you'll see that we print yet another array element at index 1 is orange. Now here is a really cool thing about arrays in JavaScript. Arrays in JavaScript know their lengths. This is very different from the arrays in C, but similar to how arrays look like in C# and Java. So now understanding that and knowing that array indices start at 0 and go all the way to length -1, it would be intriguing to see what happens if we try to access the element at the index yet another array dot length, or try to index the element at length. Well, of course, since the array is only of length and goes from 0 to length -1, this element actually does not exist. But if you try to assign a value to an element, or if you try to assign a value at this particular index, the interesting thing that ends up happening is the array length actually gets increased and you have a new value appended to the end of the array with whatever you assign. So here in yet another array, we assign at the index length the value pineapple. So now suddenly you have the array with pineapple at the end. So if we try to print now the last element in the array, which is the index at length -1, we'll end up with pineapple. As you can see here, the element at last index is pineapple. Previous to this, if you would have printed the last element at line 15, then you would have seen pear. So that's one cool thing. Now here is another mind bender. So I just told you that if you try to assign a value at the length index in an array, whatever value you assign will get appended to the array. What happens if we try to assign a value at length plus 1? It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? So you have elements, let's say 3 elements in an array, 0, 1 and 2, at indices 0, 1 and 2. And you try to assign something at index, let's say 4. So you have 0, 1, 2, and then you're skipping 3 and you're assigning something at 4. Right? What will happen? So if we actually print these values at length minus 1 and length minus 2 after we have done this, you see what happens here, and then you see undefined. So what just happened here? Here is what ended up happening. Initially we had elements apple, orange and pear in the array. The array length was 3 and the last index was 2. So here the array length was 3 and the last index was actually 2. Then we appended the pineapple at the end. The length of the array at this point of time increased by 1 to 4 and the last index became 3. Let us print the array at this point of time and see what happens. Now here is another cool thing about JavaScript. You can just print an entire array by just saying console.log. Let's just type this. And just putting the name of the array in there. So let's see what happens here. And you can see that the entire array is printed along with the pineapple that was appended at the end. Now we assign right over here, we assign something at length plus 1. Remember that the array length at this point was 4. So assigning something at length plus 1, i.e. 4 plus 1 equals 5, makes the array grow to actually length 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then actually 6. Because you are assigning something at index 5, that means the actual length of the array is 6. However, the element that you assigned at was at element number 5, the index number 5. Now question is, what is present at index number 4? And the answer is that JavaScript did not know what to do with the index number 4, so it created what is called a hole at that location. After line number 24, the length of the array has become 6. So printing the element at index 5 right over here, which is the last index, prints what happens here. And then like here you can see it prints what happens here. And then when you try to print the element at index 4 by going 2 down the array, it prints undefined. It's printing undefined because, as I said, the hole is there and JavaScript didn't know what to do with the hole, so it just left it empty. Now you can assign a value here and fill the role, but understand that by default JavaScript in this ambiguous situation will just create a hole and leave it be. This can come back and bite you at later point of time, so be careful when assigning values to an array. If you go over the bounds, JavaScript will just happily go ahead and assign some value at that location, but it will create holes if required. Now here is really cool thing about JavaScript. In pretty much any other language that you will see that arrays can hold data of just one type. In JavaScript this is not so. You can have one single array hold any type of data. That's what I meant when I initially said that JavaScript arrays can hold different kind of data. Look here between lines 30 and 36. We have this array called mixed array. The square bracket starts here and the matching one is actually over here. As the first element of the array, we are assigning yet another array inside here, which has two elements, inner 1 and inner 2. Then we put a comma, and then as the second element of the array, we assign an object which has two properties, var1 and var2, with values value1 and value2. This is completely mind-boggling, just simply impossible in pretty much any other language. If we try to print the actual values here, see we are printing at line 38 console.log, we are saying mixed array 0 0. Now the first 0 refers to the 0th element or the element at index 0 in this array. The outer array at index number 0 has this entire array. So printing the 0th element and then within that 0th element again printing the 0th element should print this inner one. The second time we print for the outer array, mixed array, we print the element at index 1. And since it's an object, we go inside and print the property var2 in there. So let's see what this thing actually looks like here. And you can actually see here that the first one prints the value inner one and the second one prints value 2. Now all I wanted to showcase here was that arrays in JavaScript can contain mixed things inside them as values at different indices. Really cool. Now here is something to think over. Do we really need multidimensional arrays? You just saw at line 30 here that we can have an array and then the outer array can just contain inner array here. Right? So do we really need multidimensional arrays? If you have learned C or C++, even C# or Java, they all have the concept of multidimensional arrays. We don't really need an explicit way of creating multidimensional arrays in JavaScript. The way you do multidimensional arrays in JavaScript is by just putting arrays within arrays. So here, when I create this variable called multidimensional array, I am putting this array at location 0 in the outer array, and then the second array again at index number 1 in this outer array. If you want to, let's say, find or reach this particular element number 1 here, you will say, I want to reach the outer element, I want to reach the 0th element of the outer array, and then in the inner array again I want to reach the 0th element. The way this would be done is you say multidimensional array, and then once you put 0, this makes us reach to the 0th element. And then once again if we put another 0 here, we reach this one here. So we effectively have multidimensional array without requiring any special syntax or anything. Now let's look at the next thing in an array. In pretty much all languages, arrays have the ability to have elements added to them. In some you have fixed size arrays, in some you have variable size arrays. Once you have variable length arrays, as in you can add things to an array, you want the ability to be able to delete elements from an array. So here I declared a variable called oneArray, which is an array containing 4 values 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I want to delete the element at index 3 here, right? So I went ahead and used the syntax here called delete oneArray, and then I specified the index at which I want the deletion to happen. Notice what happens once I print this thing after deleting this thing, right? So this is the output here. You can see it prints 1, 2, 3, and then there is empty space here, right? And the comma here specifies that there is something after the element 3, right? So there is nothing being printed here. What does this mean? What it means is that JavaScript once again created a hole for you. It created an array with nothing at index number 0, 1, 2, and 3. So it created a hole at index number 3. This is most likely not what you would want when you are deleting an element from the array. What you really want at a point of deletion is for that element to go away and the length to actually decrease. The right way of doing this is using this function called splice. So you say oneArray.splice, and it takes 2 parameters. The first parameter says the index that you want to remove elements from, and the second parameter says how many of those elements do you want to remove. So at this point of time, one array is there. It still has 4 elements in there. We want to remove the elements starting at index number 2. So that is, this is element number 1. index number 0, index number 1, this index number 2. So this is where we want to start deleting from. And then what we are saying is we want to delete 2 elements from here. So after we are done splicing the array, let's print it again and see what happens. The output is present over here. You can see now after we spliced, we only have 2 elements left in the array, the number 1 and the number 2, and there are no more holes. So this is how you should actually be deleting elements from the array using the splice method and not the delete method, which leaves holes in the array. This is by no means a comprehensive lesson on arrays. For any resource in JavaScript, HTML5 and so on, you should go and look at this website called w3schools.com. This is a really good website for use as a reference. And the reference for the JavaScript array object is present at this particular URL. You can download this file, this lesson file from the blog website, and you can click this link and go over to the W3 Schools website and look at the various methods that are present in the array object.